Welcome to Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. I'm Paula Eddy Wilcox, and today is the third episode with our wonderful guest who is talking about the pivotal moments that make them the leader they are today. I really hope you enjoy the episode. I can't wait to find out what's in store. Welcome to our third episode of Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders with Finlay McArthur, who is the coach and psychotherapist extraordinaire, author of 4 books, which I only found out in the previous episode, amazing, and just all-round super talented leader and human being. Welcome back, Finn.
Gosh, well, I'm not going to get my head through the door when I leave, I hope you realise. Thank you for welcoming me back. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
No problem. And it's a pleasure to have you join us. And I know that already the listeners will have got so much value from the little golden nuggets that you've shared in your first 2 episodes. And I know they're excited to hear about your pivotal moments in making you exactly who you are today that we're going to talk about. So when you're ready, Finn, let's dig in.
Thank you. Thank you again for that wonderful introduction. But I'm really not sure I'm deserving all that, but thank you anyway. But so pivotal moments, my gosh, I've been very fortunate, I think, and very honoured to witness and been involved in lots of things that I think has made me who I am today. And it really starts, I think, with going back to my father, which we discussed in the first episode, and my mother, bless her, I'm not leaving her out, but it was that discipline I think I had from my father. It was a nice discipline. It wasn't a harsh, if I did something wrong, I had to drop and do 15 press-ups, but it was almost like a soft discipline, but it was one that it set the foundations, I think, for my adult life. I've always been fascinated in people, why they think the things they do, why they do the things they do. As a late teenager, I was always asking why. I think the teachers got fed up with me at school because, I'd ask a question. For instance, so I was sitting at a desk when I was about 14, 15, and I was running my hand. One of those old-fashioned desks, the wooden ones, giving my age away now. And I was running my hand across it, and I thought there's all bumps and bits missing, and it was in a science class, and I think we just set light to something and done whatever it was we had to do. I can't remember. And I was running my hand. I said, do we actually ever touch anything? And the teacher said, so sorry. I said, do we actually ever touch anything? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm feeling all this, but I'm actually touching it. She said, of course you are, you stupid boy. Said, okay, fine. Only to find out a few years ago, because I started looking at quantum mechanics and quantum physics and all that sort of wonderful stuff. We don't actually touch anything. There's a very tiny little force field between us and what we're touching, and the only reason we get dirty fingers to things because of we attract dirt and stuff. But we don't actually physically. We can feel the bumps and grooves, but there's a little force field between us and what we're touching. So we don't really actually touch anything. So, but why would I ask that when I was
mind blown officially?
I'll give you something else in a minute that'll really blow in your listeners' minds. I'll make a note to bring that up later. So at that age, and I was asking things like that, and I thought, I'm weird. It's got to be strange. Why am I asking these sorts of things? But so that really got my interest going. And in my early years, I was always fascinated by, again, why people do and what they say, etc. And I was always listening to my dad's experiences during the war and his experiences afterwards. So that really sort of got my interest and I think really made me who I am, because I had this thirst. I wasn't great at school, but when I left school, I had this thirst for knowledge, and I signed up at the adult education school, and I learnt. Did my A-level business studies, and I just couldn't stop learning and finding out stuff. And at work, always wanted to know a little bit more about things. So I'd always come in at a weekend, especially in the aviation industry, come in at the weekend to work with the people doing different jobs to find out why they did it and how they did it. And weird child, really. Kind of explains a lot now, but yes. And I found myself looking at the world in a more of a holistic style, which in those days, and I'm talking late 70s, early 80s, it wasn't really the done thing. But before you ask, no, I didn't walk around with my hair braided and carrying a spliff or anything like that. Listening to Jimi Hendrix. Actually, that's a lie. I did listen to Jimi Hendrix, but not for that reason. But but I was just fascinated. But then, you know, my life went ebbed and flowed. It was as I became my first leadership role came when I was quite young. Was I ready for it? I think I was ready for it, but I just wasn't prepared for it. I think that was the way. So it was a baptism of fire, as I said in the previous show. But I found I had this knack of common sense. Again, could have been something that was installed into me, but I had this big knack of using common sense in a lot of things that were going on. But then things started to change when I lost my brother, who was my icon. Bless him. He looked after me when I was young, and you know, as an older brother would. And he was a guy that could turn his hand to anything. He rode motorbikes. He could do anything. And you know, he bought a house, completely stripped it back, and rebuilt it again. But he just learned how to do things as he went along. And you know, he was always on the lookout for me, as was my sister, bless her. But when I lost him, that changed a lot. There was a huge gap suddenly appeared, and that taught me a lot about myself, about how I was able to deal with grief and loss, and that taught me a lot about myself. So, well, I think life always teaches us lessons, and that was one huge lesson that I had to swallow and learn to take at at an earlier age. And then I became a psychotherapist and a coach, and then I was very fortunate to work with the Ladies Breast Cancer Charity, which was again hugely humbling, working with these ladies and their families, and the trust and the confidence that they installed in me, which was very humbling. And you know, they were talking through their experiences and how best we can help them. And again, that really again was another pivotal moment, because I love doing it. It was just a great experience, very humbling experience, and just the sheer strength, determination of these ladies was just incredible, absolutely amazing. So that was a really pivotal point in my life. Then I started volunteering for a disaster management organization that saw me at air crashes and acts of terrorism, and I was a mental health advisor then to basically you go out to a scene of an air crash and you would look after mental health of the search and rescue teams, and then you'd be there to support the families when they came out to look at for whatever reason they came out for, whether it's just to go to the crash scene or just to get things organized and get their loved ones back home. And again, that was an amazing experience, and one that was very haunting, harrowing, but at the same time very enlightening, because it taught me how the different stages of trauma play out, and how grief works with that as well. And having my own experience of losing my brother earlier on, you know, that kind of dovetailed. So again, I'm using that word humbling, but it was working with, you know, these poor families that have come out to help the authorities to get their loved ones back home, and so they could. So that again was another pivotal moment. So, I've had a very colourful life. I've got a very open mind. I've got friends that I say before are into spiritualism. I got friends that are into, completely the opposite, and I love that. And a friend of mine who I haven't seen for a number of years now, but a friend of mine, he was chief psychiatrist at a particular mental hospital. And again, it's fascinating talking to him about different things, about different aspects of what he did and where it fitted in with my thoughts and beliefs, etc. So, and then having my corporate career, and as I say, being very fortunate to be thrown in at the deep end at an early age to learn leadership. And I've worked for some great companies, and I worked with some amazing people. I really have. A lot of my staff, we're still in touch now when we meet up, and we're great. We get on. We're just people that have a good time and have a laugh. We're not manager staff. We never have been that relationship. So, I've had a lot of, and of course, my coaching. I've had a lot of experience now, and wonderful people that I've met wanting different things from their lives and helping them to get there. Some organisations, and having the great exposure in working in foreign lands as well, and getting to know their cultures. So, I think my whole life, to be quite honest, Paul, I can say it's been a huge learning curve, and it still is. I'm not afraid to say that I've just signed up to do a poetry course because something is I've always been fascinated in, and you had to send off a sample of your work, and apparently a limerick isn't poetry, but hey, you live and learn. Anyway. Who knew? I mean, I thought it was a cracking one, but they weren't particularly sure about that. But anyway. But I just find different aspects of life and people within life are just fascinating. I just, I'm the wrong side of 30 now, but I just find that.
Only 31, Finn. It's fine.
Thanks. Yeah, I was trying to keep that from people, but okay, thanks. That's
yeah. Well, I'm saying that because I'm only 31 as well.
Of course you are. Yes, I have to go weekly to get my hair low lighted. So the grey, I'm really dark, but I want the George Clooney look.
I get you.
Yeah. So I just think I think without wishing to sound melodramatic, but my whole life's been pivotal, and I think it would continue to be so because I still got this thirst to understand, to know. A friend of mine is learning quantum physics, and I love talking to him about all different aspects of that. He's a late developer, like me, and learning different things. So bringing all that into my life and into leadership itself, I think it's rich. I've never been a two-dimensional person. I hate that word, thinking outside the box, but I think in an early age I didn't think outside the box. I'd like to take the box apart to find out why it's got 4 sides on it. And as I say, I think that's been who I am and who I'll continue to be honest. So yeah,
gosh, what a fascinating sequence of pivotal moments there. And I often think about them as those crucible moments. You go in one end, some sort of change and experiences happening in the middle, and then you come out the other side with so much more experience, so much richer as a result, even though it might have been painful in that moment. And you've certainly talked about a lot of that today, Finn, and thank you certainly for being so vulnerable and sharing stories that are so close to your heart. And just thank you for that, and showing up and being the fantastic Finn and leader that you are.
No, I mean, thank you for the opportunity. And I just will say to everybody, don't take things at face value. Go out, investigate, have fun, see what's out there, ask why, ask questions, push back, challenge, because that's what life's all about. Don't take one person's particular angle on it, or my wife loves me because I'm always shouting at the television, especially when the news is on. And but look between the lines. just go out and experience life, and it has a lot to offer back when you do.
Yeah. And I love that idea of asking why. Try and tap into your 2-year-old self or 3-year-old self that always was, why? Why? You know, and they talk about the 5 whys, don't they? Root cause analysis or something, if I'm remembering it correctly. Probably not. But anyway, the 5 whys to get to the root of the cause of the issue that you're facing. It's such a great question. You don't need to say anything else with it. Just why? You know,
You,
and think
you don't.
about what else you can bring to whatever it is you're facing. And I
Yeah.
know that oh, sorry, go on.
No, go, please.
I was just going to say, I know that I've not been great at doing that, certainly in my early career. But now, as I'm more experienced and older, you know, it's so much easier for me to ask why and to challenge things and want to know more. And certainly over the years, as I've got deeper into the coaching, you know, and becoming more curious, I can't imagine ever going back to that being contained in the box, if you like, to use your analogy earlier, you know, of how I was really in my early career. That feels painful to me now, that I wouldn't have the thoughts and the experiences and the curiosity that I have now. If that was taken away, what's the point?
Exactly. And it's interesting what you said there, because someone asked me, one of the new learners that we're working with, she said, if you could sum up what coaching is, what would it be? And I said, to remain curious. And that's it. Because if you're curious about what the person's saying about that person themselves, then everything else will fall into place. But just always remain curious. And leadership, remain curious. You know, you're given a new job to do, a new project to do, be curious about it. Look at it. When we're 1 or 2 years old, probably one years old, you're giving a new toy. What's the first thing you do when you give a baby a new toy? They'll probably pick it up, they'll look at it, they sniff it, probably lick it, try and pull it apart, bang it, see what's they take time to look at it. They look at it in all different angles. You're given that same toy when you're a 15, 16, 30, 40, 80-year-old. You're given it, you think, oh, it's one of those, and you put it down. But you're not curious about it. You're not, look at it. What's it made of? Lick it, smell it, touch it. But we lose that ability to do that, because we start taking things at face value very, very quickly, very early on, because that's what we do. But stay curious. Be that fact finder. Be that what is it? What's it made of? If I bang it, what's going to happen to it? What's these things coming out of it? What's it smell like? What's it taste like? What's it? Use those senses that we're born with, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. The more we can foster that curiosity that we had as youngsters, the richer our experience of our lives and our careers and our leadership. And it isn't just about your professional life, it's about your personal life too. You know, we're leading ourselves through life, let's face it. So bringing that curiosity into everything you do, your life is going to be much, much richer as a result.
It is. And you know, you don't have to go far. You can walk out your back door and just excuse me, I'm getting into my holistic side again now. Go out. So last summer I was sitting on the I was sitting out my patio, and I was looking down, and there's a little ant, and I got some patio paving stone.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting down, and I thought, oh, there's an ant, and it came walking out, but there was a leaf in the path of where he was walking. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I watched, this tiny little black thing, and I was watching it, and it went up to this leaf, and it walked round the leaf, and it came back to where it was, and it kind of looked at it again, and then it picked it up, moved it to one side, went back to the path it initially on, and then carried on walking. And I thought, what went through its mind to think, okay, had to look at it. What is it? Why is it in this? Why is it in my way? And then I had to say, well, do you know, I'll move it, and then I can carry on my path. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, this tiny little thing like that, his brain's probably the size of, I don't know, tiny. but had the common sense to do that. And that's quite fascinating. So you don't have to go out to the Serengeti and watch herds of wildebeest, going, nice to do. Just go into your back garden, go somewhere, just stop, take a deep breath and see what's around you, and be like that 6-month-old baby. Pick that up, look at it, smell it, taste it, see what's going on with it. And you'll be surprised what you can do if you just spend half an hour just looking around you and really taking in what's around you. But just don't look beyond looking. Just take that time to do that. And again, with leadership, just take a deep breath sometimes. Look at what's going on. Who have you got? What do you need to do? Do you need to do it that way? Is there other ways to do things? Pick it up, smell it, taste it, find out what it's for. And if you can do that, then you'll find life suddenly has a completely new, different color, structure, and sound to it.
Yeah, I love that idea, Finn, and can't remember exactly all the details of this, but you'll get the idea. I often do a check-in with in group workshops where you're sort of a grounding exercise, if you like, I suppose. And obviously the past few years, lots of this has been done virtually, but it's that sort of 5 things you can see around the room. Five objects, say, that you can see around the room, and then 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can hear, and then 1 thing that you can taste. And it really, really helps people to observe the room that they probably show up in, like I do in this office every day. I go office blind, I just come to my desk and I sit here and I don't look at the things. I don't look at the silly squashy sausage dog that my daughter bought me, that when you squash it, it does not go back to the shape, which really upsets me. And then he gets a really squashed face, so I have to remember to look at him, and now he looks really funny. For those of you that are only listening rather than watching, maybe pop over to YouTube channel Game of Leadership and go and have a look at what I was holding up there. It's a real character. But you forget the things that are around you, and it takes a moment of mindfulness to bring those things back into your conscious mind, that you don't block them out again. So the more we can do that and step out in nature as well and do things like that, it's a lovely way to reawaken the senses and create that curiosity that we were talking about earlier. It doesn't have to be what I just said about, the 5 things running down to 1, whatever it is, just 1 thing. Even if you go out and find 1 thing to get yourself started, because you haven't got enough time to look for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, just take a quick break at lunchtime. Go and take that moment for yourself. So it all makes a difference.
It does all make a difference. And it's all about being in the present moment, no matter what it is. Again, whether it's leadership or playing football or whatever it is, it's being in that moment and just concentrating in that particular moment. Now that brings me to that little thing that we first came into this podcast that you said. I said I've got 1 thing that.
Yes. Yeah, tell me.
So when people say to me, do you know what? I'm living in the present moment. I'm fully engaged in the present moment. When you think about it, you're never in the present moment. You can't be, because everything that we consciously hear, see, touch, taste, and smell takes the brain 1,000th of a second to process. So everything that we hear, see, touch, taste, and smell in our daily lives, once we become aware of it, it's already in the past. So is there such a thing as a present moment?
You're so philosophical, Finn. I'm not going to get into that because, I don't know that I've got the brain capacity, because, again, mind blown. But, it is a fascinating thought that we're either not touching something due to the force field you talked about earlier, or that we're not actually in the present moment. And, of course, coaching that we both do and love is all about being present for that coachee that you're looking after and supporting in that moment. And we'll have to accept that we are a thousandth of a second behind. I think I can live with that parameter. Do you?
I to be honest, you said earlier your mine's I can't get my head around that either. It was a talk by Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, quantum physicist, great guy. And if you're into that, go on to YouTube YouTube, because he talks in a way that I understand. But he came up with that scenario, and it took me about 3 or 4 days to get my head around it, to be honest. But it's a thought.
Two people that I really love. One is Professor Brian Cox, who's not quite in that sort of realm, but the other guy who I hear quite a lot, and I'm going to promote somebody else's podcast here because my husband listens avidly, so I get to hear it by default, is Joe Rogan's podcast. And he has Neil, and I cannot remember his surname, but he's an American guy, very tall, black gentleman. God, that's really going to annoy me now. But anyway, he's something like a quantum physicist. Oh, I can't even say the word physicist. You know the word I mean.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Just a brain that operates on a quantum level that I can't even comprehend. And I have such admiration for people that just have these fascinating minds and can get their brains around these concepts and theories and realities of our world that I don't even begin to understand, but it's amazing. I love it.
It is good, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to promote, but I don't even know who did it. But there's a great DVD called "What the Bleep Do We Know?"
Yeah,
and if you're into that, and if you want to know more about that, it's an hour and a half, but it's a fantastic video that will once you watch it, you put it down, you will never see your life in the same way again, because it explains everything, but in layman's terms that I can understand. And great DVD. So it's What the Bleep Do We Know? You can get it on Amazon. Fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds like my kind of thing.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
Super. Well, look, we've talked about all sorts over the last 3 episodes that we've had the pleasure of your company, Finn, and I'm so grateful to you for joining us. Yes, I'm sad because this is the end of our 3rd and final episode with you, but I'm going to say for now, because I hope that one day you'll come back again and share your fantastic wisdom and stories with us in the future. That would be my pleasure if you'd agree to do that at some point.
It would be my pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been really lovely, and I've enjoyed sharing my stories and having these wonderful chats. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, really appreciate it. Look, whatever's happening now, whatever you're off to do now, have a wonderful evening, because everyone can see it's dark in just out the window. Oh, I can't get this round. It's the opposite way on this camera. So just over there. There we go. I've pointed to it. You can see it's dark outside. So we're going to go off and have our tea or dinner. And we hope you enjoy your week. And I'll see you, and you'll be listening again to me next week on Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. This has been the 3rd episode and final episode for a little while anyway, with our guest, who shared their pivotal moments that make them the leader they are today. Again, I talk about uniqueness a lot. Every guest story and their pivotal moments, the challenges they faced, the issues they faced over the years to get to where they are now, and how they pulled themselves through all of that, makes them the leader they are today. And each one of those stories is unique and different. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with them and see what that meant for them. Now, once again, it's your turn to reflect on what you've heard today, see what resonates for you, and think about what that might mean for your leadership moving forwards. I'm Paula Eddie Wilcox, and I look forward to welcoming you back next time on Game of Leadership, the podcast for curious leaders. Bye for now.